Good afternoon and welcome to the final session of our International Student-Focused Political Webinar Series hosted by International Student and Scholar Services. My name is Chelsea Wells and I am the Director of ISSS. The purpose of this webinar series is to provide international students and other students who are not US citizens with the foundational context for discussions around the US presidential election, and also to provide resources to you about your rights and responsibilities, particularly when engaging in social or political activism, as well as information about how to get involved in civic engagement opportunities to contribute to your community and so that your voices are heard. You can find out more information about our political webinar series that's been hosted throughout this month by going to our website at isss.utah.edu. This is our final session, and recordings of all of our previous sessions are posted on our website. We will continue to add in links to additional information and other resources about each topic, so please remember to check back on that page for further updates. The topic for today's session is student advocacy. This session is focused on how international students can get involved on campus, locally, and even nationally in order to participate in volunteer civic engagement opportunities or advocate for changes at the local and federal levels in the United States. Our panelists will discuss advocacy group resources, talk about how international students can get involved on campus through the Hinckley Institute of Politics, the Binion Center, as well as other local and national organizations like the National Association of Graduate Professional Students. Even though international students and other students who are not US citizens are not eligible to vote in the US elections, there's still many ways to get involved, give back to your community, and also to make sure that your voices and perspectives are heard. Through your involvement, it is possible to create impactful, positive change. Then for the last 15 minutes or so of our session will be devoted entirely to a question and answer session with our panelists. Our panelists today include Miranda Best, Outreach Coordinator with the Hinckley Institute of Politics, Dean McGovern, Executive Director, Binion Center, Madhen Arulanadem, Director of International Student Concerns, National Association of Graduate Professional Students, and a current PhD student at Arizona State University. And our last panelist is Mary Joseph, University of Utah undergraduate student, presidential intern, International Student Council board member, and former ISSS ambassador. We sincerely thank all of our panelists for joining us today for our discussion and for providing resources and opportunities to help students become involved in various types of civic engagement. If you experience any technical issues during this webinar session, please email the ISSS tech inbox and we will assist you. The email address will be posted in the chat for your reference. If you have any questions for our panelists, please submit your questions through the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. When submitting your question through the Q&A feature, you can also choose to submit this confidentially. So just in order to best protect your privacy. If you have any additional questions that weren't answered in today's session, please feel free to contact us at international@utah.edu and we will seek answers to your questions and get back to you as soon as possible. Our first topic today is about the University of Utah Hinckley Institute of Politics and the Student Internship Program. Our panelists will be discussing communication strategies with various stakeholders, such as politicians, executives, and donors. I am pleased to welcome our first panelist, Miranda Best. Miranda?
Thank you, Chelsea. This is a great opportunity for me to present to you all today. I'm really excited about this. Civic engagement is so important for students, especially at the university level, because there's so much impact that they can have on their communities, whether you are a US citizen or if you are an international student or have another status. So I'm really glad that we have this opportunity to discuss this topic. The Hinckley Institute is an amazing office and resource on campus to help students understand how they can become civically engaged, whether it's through our internship program or taking one of our courses or attending our political forums that we host every week. The Hinckley Institute was founded with the principle of getting students engaged in their communities and having transformative experiences that provide them political thought leadership. These internships help students to build networks and understand how, no matter what they're studying in their academics, they can always tie back to some sort of political, economic, or social issue we're seeing in our communities. So we love to help students make that connection between their academics and what we see in the world around us. And so at the Hinckley Institute, we, as I mentioned, we have our different programs. And so I want to discuss a little bit about what those programs look like first, and then delve into some other options of how students can become involved outside of Hinckley programming. So internships is our biggest program that we offer for our students. And so international students are able to participate in these internships. No matter what your major is, we have some options for you. If you want to get involved in education or something in the STEM field or politics, nonprofit, business, we have things for you. And then again, we have that learning piece that helps students understand how that ties back to civic engagement. Local internships tend to be the most popular for our international students to participate in because they are more flexible with their school schedules. They're part-time. That way students are able to take other classes and be involved in other extracurricular activities. And then we understand that with internships, international students do frequently have some restrictions on what types of activities and work that they can participate in. And so these internships are a great route for students to have that. A lot of our internships do pay. We understand that sometimes the international students aren't able to receive payment or have technical jobs. And so we do have scholarships that we can also offer our students to help them with that compensation. If students are interested in going to Washington, D.C. or going abroad, international students are also able to do that. And it's a great way to expand on your experience as a student and get that professional work opportunity while you're studying. I do want to just show our website real briefly so that students know how they can learn more about the internship programs that we have to offer. So our website is just hinckley.utah.edu, and students can go to our internship page, and then they can browse all of the internships that we have based on location, or students can also browse internships by major. And so if you go to our individual program pages, you can see all of the host offices that we partner with. So instead of students trying to find internships on their own, they can come and apply to be a part of our program, and then we connect students with these great offices to get set up with an internship. And so you will see we do have a lot of offices that relate to government, whether it's at the federal, state, or national level, and international things like that. So students can browse through here and see all of our partners that we have. And you'll see that a lot of these, as you browse through our extensive list, that a lot of these are going to relate back to these issues that we're seeing, right? And so even if you are not a resident or a citizen of the United States, you're spending time here and you are a student and you are going to be impacted by these issues that we see in our communities. So it's really important for you as students to get involved and become educated on what's happening. And this is a really great way to do that. There are lots of issues that we're seeing in our communities, like I mentioned earlier, whether it's political, economic, or social. So pick something that really interests you or something that ties back to your education and learn more about it. And doing these internships is a really great way to do that. Students are interning for a semester with the organization of their choice and getting to work in substantive projects that help them learn more about the type of work that these organizations are doing in the community. So they may be working on policy proposals or community-based research and data analysis, or helping nonprofits write grants to receive funding for continued projects and things that they have going on in their communities. And so these internships are a really great way for students to get started in that realm. Additionally, the Hinckley Institute offers various courses that are focused on civic engagement. A lot of these are offered most semesters. And so we have a lot of ways for students to learn about elections and campaigns through our campaign management course. This is offered every other fall semester in conjunction with elections. And so students get to do a mini internship on a campaign of their choice and then learn about how campaigns impact their local communities. We have a forum series course that's offered every fall and spring semester where students attend our forum. They write short papers on them, and they learn how to tie again back these forums that they're listening to and attending into their studies and into the issues that they care about within their communities. And this also helps our students really hone in on their professional writing abilities instead of writing lengthy research papers. We have the Capital Encounter course, where students get to, over the spring semester, work with small groups in their classes to develop policy proposals. And then we take our students to Washington, D.C. for a week at the end of the spring semester. And they get to work with lobbyists and legislators and other politicians in D.C. and pitch their proposals to them. And they're getting to see firsthand what this is like to make policy in our nation. And it's a really great firsthand experience. We have our legislative internship that students can participate in to learn how the Utah policy is made and how our legislature works and how unique it is compared to other states. So this is a really great opportunity in the spring semester, again, to see how politics works in our state. And then if students are interested in international affairs, we have our John Price Think Tank course, where Ambassador John Price, who served in Africa for a variety of years, or a number of years, discusses policy in regards to Africa and international affairs, right? So these are all really great courses that students get to have the opportunity to participate in and learn more and educate themselves about what's happening around our communities. And then lastly, what I want to touch on as far as programs in the Hinckley is our forums. So as I mentioned earlier, we host these forums. We usually host about 40 to 50 every semester. And so this is a really great way for students to learn more about what's happening directly in our community and hear it from the experts and the people who are on the ground in these areas working on these topics. They address anything from healthcare to education to social justice initiatives and everything in between. And so because of the pandemic, we are streaming these through our YouTube channel. They are normally in person on campus, but if anything, this makes it a lot easier for students to tune in and listen to these forums. They're open to the public. Anyone can tune in. And so you'll see we've had a lot going on with the election and campaigns and things like that. And so, but then you'll come through and we're seeing a lot right now with healthcare and the pandemic and what's going on there. So these are also a really great way for students to educate themselves and hear from these people that you normally wouldn't have the chance to hear from and see what they have to say about what's going on in our communities. So these are a really great way for students to get involved at the Hinckley Institute as students. Outside of the Hinckley, though, there are still numerous ways for international students to get involved in our community. I hear frequently, though, that either undocumented or international students will help us because they're like, I live here, I study here, but I can't vote. So what do? I don't have a voice. But you do. There are things that you can do. And so as I was mentioning earlier with our forums and other things in our courses, find ways to learn more about the issues that you're most interested about. It can be daunting, right? There's a lot going on in our world. There's a lot of information out there, and so it can be overwhelming. But pick one or two things that you're most interested in and learn about them and understand how these issues impact your life in the US and how that connects you to your peers. And then discuss it, right? Find people to talk to and share your story with them and share how certain policies may impact you as a student here in your experience. Other things you can do, get in politically oriented student groups. So the University of Utah has plenty of student groups that have politically focused ideas and goals in mind. You can get involved with these groups. And again, this is a great way to get involved with your peers, teach them about how US politics influences your experience as an international student, and then empower your peers to vote and do the things that you may not be able to participate in because it is important, right? And it impacts you directly. As I mentioned earlier, you can do your internships through the Hinckley, but you can also volunteer or intern for a campaign or a political party. There are some regulations, I believe. It could be a little wrong on like the exact details as far as like compensation goes, right? But you can do things as like unpaid and still get to participate in these opportunities and work for something that you believe in. and that you feel like maybe a representative that will impact the next 3 or 4 years of your experience at the University of Utah. And then another thing that is really great, and I feel like this gets overlooked a lot, is writing letters to local representatives. So again, you may not have permanent status here. You know you're going to be here for a short amount of time, but these representatives are making decisions and they can make influence on larger policies that impact your experience as an international student. And so find people who represent the area that you're living in, and let them know, like, hey, you know what, this is my experience, this is where I'm from, this is what I'm doing at the University of Utah and how I'm making an impact on my community by my academics and my goals. But there are these certain policies or certain issues that I'm seeing in my community that impact me, or that could impact future international students, and I would like your help in making these changes, right? Voice your opinions, talk to people who are making these things happen. And it's a great way to use your voice to make some change, whether you think it'll make a change or not, it does. And so these are really great ways for students to just get involved, feel empowered. And I think about myself, like, what if I were to spend 4 years in another country? Like, how would I feel with the politics that are going on in that country? How would those impact me? And it's hard to think about because it's not my experience, you know, but I would hope that because you're spending so much time here, you're going to be invested in what's surrounding you, and feel empowered to voice your opinions and voice your concerns, and work with those around you to support you as well. So even though you can't vote, there are lots of other things you can do. And I'm excited to hear what the other panelists have to say as far as other things that you can do to get involved. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Miranda. Our next topic is about the University of Utah Binion Center, and it will be an overview of the Binion Center and the work that they do, and it will also be about the different ways that you can get involved in projects or activities to help support your community or local grassroots organizations as well. So please welcome our next panelist, Executive Director of the Binion Center, Dean McGovern.
Thank you, Chelsea. It's great to see all of you, and thanks, Miranda. That was wonderful. I am probably going to share a screen if that's okay. I'll just pop it up here in a minute. But I want to welcome all of you, if it's available to you, to please come to the Binion Center. The Binion Center is open to everyone in the community, on campus, and we serve many international students. So I would hope that if you find your way to the Binion Center and our website most specifically, you can find something for you. We try to make it so that there's something for everyone at the Binion Center. And I'll go through a bit of an overview, as Chelsea mentioned. First and foremost, our why at the Binion Center is that we serve and help people who want to make the world a better place to live. And, you know, it's a huge world with 7.5 billion people in it. And what we've noticed and what we know is that talent and expertise and ambition and drive and strength and gifts and brilliance are equally distributed across the globe. They're everywhere. They're in the eastern part of the United States. They're in the Rocky Mountains of the United States. They're up in Canada and South America and sub-Saharan Africa. They're in East Asia. They're everywhere people are. There are all these wonderful attributes, ambitions, and talents. What isn't equally distributed are resources, opportunities, and chances to make that difference. And opportunities for people to thrive and live their lives. And so the Binion Center exists to make sure that we can engender a bit of equity across the globe. And we try to do that in our little corner of the world in Salt Lake City, but we expand that to our state, Western United States, and we actually have international programs as well. And that's what kind of drives us. So if you'll indulge me, I will share a little bit here. And this is our vision. We envision inclusive, healthy, resilient, and just communities. We believe that inclusivity is important, that diversity and Bringing all minds and hearts and heads together make projects better and make the world better. We want to see health and vibrancy in our communities. We understand that communities are going to come up against disasters of some sort, pandemics, natural disasters, hurricanes, wildfires, tornadoes, and in some places, where people have personal and geopolitical conflict. But we want to instill a sense of resilience in our communities, that they can overcome those things, and persistence. And then we want justice. We want just communities that care about individuals and make sure that resources are distributed in an equitable fashion and that everyone can thrive. So that's our vision. What we do to accomplish that vision is to inspire and mobilize people to strengthen communities through learning, scholarship, and advocacy. We believe that education is best accomplished through experience. And so we provide opportunities for students, faculty, and staff at the university to engage with their communities in meaningful ways, to not only personally gain from that engagement through education, data, and understanding, but to actually move the needle on issues that we need to be moved, like air quality, justice, elderly issues, environmental degradation, illiteracy, you name it. If it's a social issue or a community issue or an environmental issue, the Bennion Center has probably got a project to tackle it. And then we move forward with our values of hope, integrity, collaboration, and action. We live those values every day. We do that as a team. We do that, and we believe that the Bennion Center is more than just a place, a geographical spot on the University of Utah campus, but it is an idea. It is a spirit that lives well beyond the campus and well beyond the current students. Students that engage with the Bennion Center carry that ethic and that ethos and that spirit with them long after they graduate. So we welcome you to the Bennion Center and to our projects, and we hope that you'll engage with us to try to make the world a better place. And as Miranda talked about, we want to connect that with the things you care about. We want to connect these opportunities with the things you care about. Our priorities are those of the university, and those are to develop and transfer new knowledge. We do that through experiential learning projects. We promote student success to transform individual lives. We believe that community engagement, civic engagement is the best kind of learning that students can engage in. And this includes leadership opportunities and creating a real tight sense of belonging at the Bennion Center. We build teams, we build community within the center, and that, I believe, transforms lives. We engage communities to improve health and quality of life. We cultivate community partnerships throughout Salt Lake City, throughout Utah, throughout the Western United States, and as I mentioned, sometimes outside of the United States. We have community partners in Costa Rica, in Cuba, in Canada, in Mexico, and we'll continue to expand those programs as we move forward. And then finally, we want to ensure the long-term viability of the university by keeping the university relevant and engaged in the community. And we do that through all of our work with faculty, students, and staff on campus. I would invite you to visit our website, which is bennioncenter.org, right there. And it has a full complement of programs, events, forums, activities that we welcome you to on various topics. One I will mention, and I will put it in the chat for you. We are holding and hosting a civic leadership conference on November 6th and 7th. So that's next week. It's all virtual on Zoom, and you can register in the link that I will give you in the chat. So we would hope that you could sign up for that, and you're invited to participate in the Civic Leadership Conference. We're going to have students from all over the state of Utah participate. Some of the pathways to community engagement that we engage in, like I mentioned, we want to connect students, not only their passions, but every student learns differently, and every student might take a different pathway to making the world more beautiful. So we engage direct service. We have students rolling up their sleeves and helping people in a very hands-on, meaningful way. Some of that is done virtually now, but we have service corner projects where people are knitting and writing and creating and constructing. We have literacy projects where students are working with folks struggling with their reading competency and their proficiency and helping them move through that. So lots of direct service opportunities. We do philanthropy projects. We try to get resources from where they are to where they're needed. And we engage students, faculty, and staff in those kinds of projects. We promote social entrepreneurship, creating an organization or a business or a corporation that actually gives back to their community and strengthens their community by either creating products and services that meet a social need, that meet a community need, or in a corporate responsibility philanthropic structure where corporations and businesses actually give part of their proceeds to help a cause. We engage in policy and governance, helping students move into the political realm, taking part in campaigns, running for office themselves, getting involved in causes that they care about. And those are all things that you can do. Probably with the exception of running for office is probably limited to you, but getting involved in issues and campaigns is something you can certainly do. Making sure you're an advocate and organizing your community around issues you care about. That's another thing that we do and we encourage. And then finally, collecting data and creating courses and classroom learning opportunities that are community engaged and have an eye towards making the world a better place and moving the missions of community organizations forward. So to do all that, to engage people on these different pathways, we have several programs, we have several courses, and I've got them listed here before you. But I would encourage you to go to bendingcenter.org and sift through them, read through them at your leisure, and find something that fits for you. We have an alternative breaks program, which is an intense 1-week program during the fall break or spring break. These 2 semesters of fall and spring, we've got COVID sort of we're calling it AB Light, where we're not doing a week-long experiences, we're doing weekend experiences, and they're all very local. But on the traditional year, and we'll get back to it hopefully soon, we take students far afield from Salt Lake City into projects in other communities, and where they pick up skills and learn about issues in a very direct manner with community partners in California and Oregon, Seattle, Nevada, and so forth. We have a summer fellowships where we offer students an intense opportunity to develop from soup to nuts their own project that they care about, and we help them fund that. We have a scholars program that allows students to work through a transcript designated program and create a capstone project where they work closely with a faculty member at the university and a community partner to create a sustainable project that they must propose and then defend once it's implemented. And just fabulous students come through the Scholars Program. Miranda is one of those, one of our graduates there. We have a living learning opportunities in both the Callert Village, the new Callert Village. We have the Community Engagement Tower, and we also have the Benyon Service House, which houses 12 students. And those are opportunities where you can live and learn and serve with fellow students. We have several community engaged learning courses all across campus that we sponsor, probably close to 250 different courses. Some of them are BENN courses and Benyon Center courses, and many are scattered in various disciplines across campus. We have community engaged learning abroad courses. I mentioned Costa Rica and Cuba. These are courses that you can take where you can engage directly with communities in those places while you're learning. We have first year experiences for students who are just getting to campus, whether you're a transfer student, an international student, or a freshman, first year, right out of high school. And that's a great opportunity to build community and get to know a lot of people. We have many international students engaged in our first year service programs. Um, we have Saturday service projects that are regular ongoing projects on Saturday mornings, scattered throughout the semester and throughout the academic year, where you come together and you can actually engage in projects in the community, get to know each other, learn a little bit, and make an impact in the community. And then finally, we have what's called a Utah Reads program, and all are welcome to participate in Utah Reads, which is a reading proficiency program. We recruit volunteers, we train site leaders and volunteers to become reading tutors who are then fanned out across the valley in various schools to help students with their reading proficiency. But I would encourage you to please peruse our website. And if you can join us for our conference next week on the 6th and 7th of November, we would very much welcome you. And thank you for the opportunity to meet with you today.
Thank you, Dean. Our next panelist will introduce you all to an organization called the National Association of Graduate Professional Students, and also provide resources that you can utilize to become involved in your local national organizations to help advance goals established by the President's Alliance of Higher Education and Immigration in order to help impact positive immigration reform. I'm excited to welcome our next panelist, Madhan Aruladam, who is the Director of International Student Concerns with the National Association of Graduate Professional Students, and is also a current PhD student at Arizona State University. Madhan, go ahead.
Thank you so much for the introduction. So I would really like to thank the ISSS for inviting me to this webinar. I think this is really great opportunity to share what I have learned as a Director of International Student Concerns. So one small disclaimer, I'm not a legal expert. I'm just going to share with you all those things that I have learned as Director of International Student Concerns at NAGPS. So I have divided this presentation into 3 basic parts. In the first part, we would just run through what is NAGPS and what it does for the graduate and professional students. The second part would be focused more on advocacy resources for international students. And the third part is focusing on different advocacy channels. I think Miranda has already touched upon most of these, but I just want to broadly discuss everything that I have learned. So NAGPS is a very big national level student-run nonprofit organization. So we represent all the graduate and professional students in the United States. We were established in 1987 with the sole aim of bringing all the graduates and professional students together. So we represent over 2 million graduate students, have said before, and we have member institutions from 22 different states. So we have a very far-reaching advocacy goals. And our main mission is to develop, sustain, and expand our member network such that when there is an issue, we can all work together, we can all share resources, and we can all help each other. And finally, we can make a common voice that can be resonated with everyone, which is the main mission of NAGPS. In terms of NAGPS programming, we offer very specific 4 programming events, generally for budding students who want to be a leader in the legislative setting. So the Legislative Action Days and Advocacy Summit is a biannual event that happens once in spring and in fall. It happens in Washington, DC. So the main idea of the event is train the students on how they can advocate for themselves and for their university on behalf of all the other graduate students in the Washington Capitol Hill, and also making them go there and actually do the advocacy. So after the end of the advocacy summit, where people usually learn about different advocacy tactics, different points on what to speak or what not to speak, what different party lines care about, how to set up meetings, how to keep people in loop, how to tell a compelling story, so on. So many basic advocacy related points would be taught in there. And after that, we would go to the Capitol Hill and speak with our senators and representatives, and we would actually have a healthy dialogue to to share all our perspectives on proposed rulings, or if we want to have, or if we want to make them propose new rulings that are going to be beneficial for all the students. The second one is Leadership Academy Training or Leadership Training Academy. This is very much tailored to teach a student and turn them into a budding advocate themselves. So this program is running for a while now. And again, this program is given every semester, one in spring and one in fall. And we invite guest speakers from various levels of legislatives and offices, like federal offices. And we teach the students what is very important in terms of self-advocacy and leadership. The regional national conference are basic conferences. The regional conferences happen at the regional level. NAGPS is operating in 6 different regional levels: Northeast, South Central, Southwest, Midwest, Western region, and Central region. And the national conference happens once in a year, and it happens in different member university based on different procedures that we have in the background. But the main idea behind these 2 conferences is that bring all the members together and discuss the strategies for present legislations and future legislations, and also discuss advocacy strategies and so on, so that we are all in the same page, and then we go back to our respective campuses and start our advocacy efforts. So one cool thing is the national conference is going to happen between November 13 and 15, and this is going to be hosted by University of Northern Texas. And since this is COVID season, we are going to have this completely online. So if anyone is interested, please take a look into nagps.org, which is our website. So venturing into the second part, which is going to discuss about student advocacy resources. At the most, if you are an international student, I want you to be thorough in all these 3 websites: the US Congress, US Department of State, and US Homeland Security, DHS. Because international students are subjected to so many different rules and regulations that even if you miss out one unknowingly, it's going to cost you a lot. So it is better to be safe than sorry. If you don't have time, I would recommend you to at least pay attention to Department of State and Department of Homeland Security's website, which has most of the rules that you should care about. And if you are interested in looking into different topics, like for example, I'm interested in these topics that I have listed here, like different kind of visas, international students in general, DACA, Dreamers program, or any bills that are related to international students. I just use Google Alerts for tracking all these different keywords. So I just go to Google Alerts, put these keywords down, and specify the frequency by which I want to be notified. And Google sends me any new information on all these different topics that I have already set up. So this tool is very convenient for me, and I don't have to go and fiddle in Google on what is new, but Google tells me what is new. So I can always keep myself updated. And if you want to be very sure, or if you are very, very interested into learning more about proposed bills, govtrack.us is the website for you. It has all the nitty-gritty details of a bill, like sponsors, co-sponsor, the bill text, and the status of the bill, why it is pending, why it is moving forward, who is pushing or who is doing what, are all small details that you would be really interested in knowing. And also, they have a cool feature where you can actually find your congressperson's contact details right from their website, and you can directly contact them either to support or to support against a particular bill or a proposal. So these are very basic tools I use for keeping myself updated. In terms of international student toolkits, I would suggest you to look into the websites of IIE and NAFSA. IIE is Institute for International Education, and NAFSA is NAFSA. So these 2 websites have tons of information with respect to international students. So for example, it has information on how many students are there here, how much economic contributions they make per year, how many jobs they create, and what is their demographic, what is their higher educational degrees, and by state. So everything is split. And if you want any particular stats, please go here. In terms of advocacy resources, these are the main websites I use. So these are different organizations based in US. For example, NFAP is a National Foundation for American Policy. They have beautifully written down opinionates on different policies and different proposed bills. So they are a group that works on researching different policies, mainly focused on international trade and immigration. But due to recent new proposals or new rulings with respect to international students, this organization is very active and they are writing so many articles that are very informative and supportive for international students. Similarly, President's Alliance on Higher Education and Immigration, they are doing a wonderful job because their main focus is on international students, DACA, and immigration. So their advocacy efforts on international students are hosted on their website, and they also host a lot of ways in which you can advocate for yourself and for fellow international students. And ILA is American Immigration Lawyers Association. They are a bunch of lawyers that are specifically focused towards immigration in the US. So anything with respect to immigration, they have the content there. For example, recently there was this H-1B, like the Department of Labor wanted to raise the minimum wage for H-1Bs. And there is a litigation in court right now. And ILA is an important part. And they have a lot of information about that on their website. So if you want to track where that bill is or where the litigation is or where some policy is, go to ILA and they have it. And I've discussed about IAE and NAFTA before, and also in our website, nagps.org. So we have a ton of information with respect to everything that happens around graduate and professional students in general. And most of them would be like statements, op-eds, comments that we have written, or some amicus briefs that we have filed in the past, and everything. So all these groups are actively working for international students. And if you have any concerns or questions with respect to anything with respect to international students, go there and ask them. I think someone would definitely be interested in helping you. So also I can drop my email ID in the chat. And if you have any questions or concerns, always please contact me. The last part, I want to intro into advocacy levels and channels. I broadly divide the levels of advocacy into these four, like advocacy at university level, local level, state, and federal. Someone might probably wonder why university level advocacy is even here, right? But if you actually look from a representative or a senator perspective, the university is his constituency. So if the entire university is going to voice out in one single opinion, the senators and the representatives are going to listen to that. As Miranda said before, even though international students cannot vote in US elections, they still are living in their constituency, in those constituencies, and the representatives or senators value their voices. So if you have any concerns, you can always speak to them. It's not like your voices are not here. And in terms of state and federal level, as I've said before, even though most of the laws are made at state and federal level, all those laws are being made for the constituencies, right? And if we can have a common voice that says international students are needed for the United States, or we need to increase science funding, or we need to increase some funding for certain particular research field, I think the Congress takes it very seriously and they work on it. This has happened in the past. For example, when a few years ago, when they wanted to change the tax laws with respect to graduate and professional students, NAGPS organized a very big call-a-thon where we called all our representatives and senators. And then that particular piece of the bill was amended so that graduates and professional students were not included in additional taxes. So they are listening, and the only thing you guys need to do is go and speak to them. And different forms of advocacy, the writing letters to them, calling Congress, and paying in-person visits. They are very old methods, but they are very tried and well-tested. They always work. So if I am an NAGPS advocate, and if I want to advocate on behalf of all the graduate students on certain policy or bill, my first response would be writing a letter to my senator or to my representative asking for support on that particular policy. Or if I don't want that policy, if I don't like that policy, I would be writing a letter to ask them to support against that policy. And also, we write letters to senators and representatives asking them to issue dear colleague letters, which would help them to gather support amongst their colleagues. I mean, different senators and representatives. In terms of call Congress, as I mentioned in the previous slide, what we do is we call our congressional representative and say how we feel about a proposed bill or a policy. Sometimes it is difficult to reach them, but most of the time you are being heard. So even if the call goes in a voicemail, someone is listening there. So don't feel bad about it that no one is speaking with you, but call Congress do work if everyone is aligned and if everyone makes a common voice. And third one is in-person visits. So this is very much in alignment with our legislative action days that I have discussed a few slides before. So the main idea behind paying in-person visits is to, first of all, thank your congressperson for all their efforts and all their work. And the second point would be most important, to try and build a rapport with yourselves, your organization, and the congressional office so that you would become the nodal or you would become a resource whenever they need some information. For example, DHS has recently released a policy, right, to in order they want to rescind the duration of status and they want to bring in a fixed time period of admission. So this is not going to help international students in a lot of ways. And also it has a lot of xenophobic ideas or motivation behind the bill. If you have a very good in-person relationship with the offices of these Congress offices, you can just go in there and you can speak with them and you can explain them. You can share your stories on why this is going to be very bad to you. And people are definitely listening and people are definitely telling or passing those comments and stories to their bosses who are senators and representatives. The newer form of advocacy platform is social media campaign. Since most of the Congress people are active on Twitter, what we usually do is we initiate a social media campaign with a very catchy hashtag and with some small crispy messages to go in there. And we tag those Congress people there. If everyone is in sync, this social media campaign can grow very huge and it would become a big sensation overnight. We have seen Black Lives Matters movement, right? It has started mostly in the Twitter. The BLM became a big hit from Twitter. So Twitter has a very, very strong presence and these Congress people value Twitter and value the campaigns that we do using Twitter as a big advocacy effort. So this is the most recent kind of advocacy effort that we have started doing on. And for example, DHS rescind the rule, hashtag DHS rescind the rule is the recent campaign that NAGPS has initiated against the DHS's ruling to abolish duration of status. Finally, there are two more. One is public submission or comment and amicus briefs. So public submission or comment is when if a policy is being introduced, you have some time to express your public opinion on why this particular policy is going to be good or bad for you. So that if there are any negativities around that particular policies, we can either stop that policy becoming into a law, I mean a proposed policy becoming into a actual working policy, or we can amend that particular proposed policy to reflect those changes that were voiced using these comments. For example, NAGPS has done or written a lot of comments before, and the recent comment that we have written is with respect to the rescinding duration of status rule by Department of Homeland Security. And the last one is amicus briefs. So the students might not be able to directly do amicus briefs. So first of all, amicus brief is a legal document where you provide supporting information on a litigation that is either happening in the court or pending in the court. And this is more into a technical legal side. So I would not advise students to directly go and write amicus briefs, but you can be a great resource for amicus briefs filed by someone else because your story matters and your story means a lot to people who are listening. So these are the different forms of advocacy I wanted to discuss. And finally, a slide that's just going to highlight our national conference that is happening in November 13 to 15. So if you want any more details on what our national conference is, what we deal into, how we can enroll, and so on, please visit nagps.org. And this is our social media handle at NAGPS. We are active on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And finally, my email ID is there, disc@nagps.org. If you have any concerns or if you know anyone who has concerns and that is related to international students, always please email me and I would try to reply as soon as possible. With that, thank you so much.
Thank you, Madan. I do want to be mindful of everybody's time as we're moving a little bit closer to the end here, but our final topic before our question and answer session at the end of this session is about the University of Utah's International Student Council, or ISC. So our next panelist will be talking about what ISC does, and then also some of her experiences and recommendations for getting involved with local resources or other opportunities for civic engagement. So I'm really pleased to introduce University of Utah student Mary Joseph.
Thank you so much, Chelsea, and a special thanks to the ISSS office for putting together these webinar series in a very timely kind of period in our country. I know as a student, I learned a lot about new opportunities to be civically engaged from our fellow panelists so far, so thank you, and I hope those tuning in did too. I can't simply reiterate the importance of civic engagement as a student, especially in light of today's political climate. I think the need for international students to stand up and use their voice is crucial and undeniable. I think the events of just this past summer and the new laws that came in place were kind of a clear indication of, what happens when international students use our voice, we stand up, and we kind of use all the resources that we have to demand change and demand laws to work in our favor. So I kind of figured I would talk a little bit about my experience kind of becoming civically engaged at the U and becoming involved. When I first started at the U as an international student, I viewed civic engagement as something for students who were US citizens or domestic students. I didn't think I had the time for it, so I was essentially just a student who went to class, worked in my lab, and then went home. But in my second year, I had a friend who kind of encouraged me to come with her for a volunteering event on campus. It was actually called Project Youth, which was under Bennion Center at the time. And so I went and I spent a whole day kind of interacting with fifth graders in the local Salt Lake area who had come up to the University of Utah campus. And through my time interacting with them, what I'd kind of learned was, although the fifth graders that I talked with in my upbringing were completely different, we grew up in different countries, we had a common thread in that we were both kind of first generation students navigating this education system in the US for the first time. So I think that's the kind of power of civic engagement, is for international students coming to a new country, experiencing a new culture can be daunting and jarring, but being involved in your community allows you to find these common threads and realize that there are a lot more similarities between you and domestic students than what differentiates us. So what can undergraduate students do, international students do, to be seen and felt heard? Without the ability to vote in the United States, as Miranda had mentioned, you might feel like your concerns and perspectives don't matter, but like we just heard from Madan, it definitely does, and we definitely need to use our voices. So the first I would say is use your voice to engage in dialogue with your own community, your friends, your peers, your coworkers. Share your perspectives and your stories, because by doing that, you might be able to kind of change someone's mind and better educate them on an issue that they maybe didn't know much about, right? Especially on topics like immigration. Your perspectives are very important and can shape someone else's kind of ideas on issues like this. The second one would be leveraging social media to amplify your voice. Madan kind of mentioned it at the very end, but as we're now Gen Z millennial era, the way that we engage and gain support for our voices is by using social media. So I saw this a lot this past summer, especially with the new kind of DHS CVIS mandate came up. A lot of people were using Instagram to post stories and share the news about this new rule on their social media platforms and stay up to date about new policies that are coming in. So definitely use your social medias to amplify your voice. This not only helps, kind of educate your community, those who are maybe not international students, about the concerns that you have and, your worries that you're experiencing, but it can also truly, produce meaningful change like we saw this past summer. The third thing is, signing petitions and writing to your legislators. I think Miranda and Madan both mentioned this. Writing to your legislators is so important. Just because you're not a US citizen does not mean that your representatives do not represent. You are still, as an international student, you are still their constituents. So your senators and representatives need to listen to your voices and are getting paid to, make sure that your concerns, they're incorporating your concerns and needs and actually working to help you out. So writing to your legislators is a great thing, and also signing petitions. Sometimes signing petitions is faster. We're all very busy nowadays, so just quickly signing your name onto an e-petition actually has the power to change laws and rescind policies. So definitely, take the time to do that and share these petitions to your international students and your domestic students, your domestic friends, so that they too can help out and, join you in your fight to create more inclusive and equitable and a just world. I know that for some international students, like I know when I came here, I didn't know who my legislators were or representatives were. A simple Google search can kind of show you who your representatives are. If you're in Utah, visit le.utah.gov, and there's a search bar where you can put your zip code and it'll give you a list of who your representatives are and senators are. So it's a very kind of easy way to make sure that you can be engaged and involved in the civic process in the United States. And then lastly, perhaps the most important and the most easy to do thing would be to be involved in your community, starting at the university level. So I would like to kind of share maybe 4 resources. 2 are brand new, and the last 2 are things that you've already heard of in today's webinar. The first is the International Student Council, which connects international students with U of U campus resources. It also kind of helps you find a community here in Utah. The International Student Council represents international students on the University of Utah campus, and they put together networking events and socials where you can get to meet and get to know other international students, not just from your home country, but from all around the world, and find a sense of community here in Utah. You can find out more information about the ISC on their social media pages. So I will throw the social media pages in the chat just right now. They have an Instagram handle as well as a Facebook page. So be sure to follow them so that you can kind of stay up to date about the events that they have that are upcoming and the virtual ways that you can network and meet new students. The second kind of local resources that I would like to tell everyone about is the Associated Students of the University of Utah, ASUU, which is the student government on the University of Utah. This is, if you're looking to, get involved and voice your perspectives and your stories as an international student, I highly recommend joining ASUU. I was just in a meeting the other day, an ASUU meeting, and they explicitly stated that they're actually looking for more representation from the international student community, and they have a lot of available positions that are open. So please seize the opportunity and visit the ASUU website, and they have a button where you can click and see all the open positions, and just pop into a meeting and share your stories. I know everyone there is eagerly awaiting to hear about international student perspectives. And then the last 2 were resources that were already shared today in today's webinar, the Bennion Center and the Hinckley Institute. So I think these are the 4 local resources that I would urge all University of Utah international students to be aware of and try to be involved in, because it really enriches your experience while studying in the United States and benefits your life here as well. So that's all I had. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. We are just a little bit over time, so I apologize, and I do want to be mindful of everybody's time. But I would like to just ask one question that was submitted in advance to get your perspective, just because there is so much that's going on in the United States right now. The question is, I want my voice to be heard, but I feel really overwhelmed. How can I avoid burnout with everything that's going on right now? Mary, Madhan, do you have any thoughts on that?
So personally, even I'm burnt out. So managing education and managing self-advocacy and advocacy for all graduate students is not easy. But if you want to have a really good experience in terms of developing your advocacy and leadership skills, I think it's worth a shot. So try it out. And specifically with respect to burnout, I think all the university campuses have their own wellness centers, and they offer free psychological, what is the term? Classes, sessions. Yeah.
Services.
So yeah, so you can attend that and feel refreshed.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with, using University of Utah's like mindfulness center or counseling center, because I totally can, relate and understand the student's question. Because yeah, I too, it's been such an overwhelming year, and for international students too, there have been so many times where we feel afraid and worried for our futures. I think for me, what's helped me gotten through kind of this very uncertain time is finding a sense of community. And for me, I found my community when I decided to use my voice and, share a couple stories that related to international students on my Instagram. And then more students kind of, message me like, oh, you're going through this too. Like I am too. Let's, see what we can do together. So I think finding a community in uncertain times can be helpful because you feel less alone. You feel like you're not, lifting the burden all on your shoulders. You have other people to share this with and who are going to work with you and are going to help and fight for you as well. So I think that's my kind of piece of advice to get through this uncertain time and still be advocating for your needs and concerns.
All right, thank you both. And thank you to all of our panelists who were able to join us today. We sincerely appreciate all of the information and the perspectives that you were able to share. This now concludes our political webinar series for this month. So this was our last session. And again, all of these recordings will be posted on our website so you can refer back to them in the future. Although we weren't able to get to very many of the questions at the end here, we will still be adding all of this information and providing additional resources as well to our website. And as always, if you have any other questions, you're welcome to reach out to us in ISSS at international@utah.edu, and we will get back to you as soon as possible with the information that you need. Just please know that we are here to support you, and we will continue to support you no matter what may happen over the next few months. I encourage everybody to get involved, stay involved, exercise your right to be involved in civic engagement opportunities here, and just make sure that your voices are heard, because together we really can help impact positive change here in the United States. I just have a few quick more resources to share here. The University Counseling Center is hosting a few activities during the fall semester, because we understand that there is quite a bit of uncertainty that's going on right now, and it is difficult for all of us. But these activities are throughout the rest of the fall semester. They're specifically designed for international students. The first is the Chai and Chat. So this is just an informal student support group. You can drop in every Wednesday from 4 to 5 just to connect with other students, make sure that you can express any of your concerns and that you are heard. We also have an international student success workshop. So these occur every Tuesday, and it actually is just starting right now. But if you are interested in learning more, there are further details on our Instagram account, which you would be able to access even if you aren't a member of Instagram. And then finally, thank you again to everyone who was able to join us throughout this month for the political webinar series, or even just for today. All of our sessions have been recorded, and you can go directly to our website by using this QR code here. So thank you all again. Thank you to our panelists, and we hope that you have a great evening.